Hey. Come on. Come on. Hey.
Hey everyone, welcome to Mic Drop Monday. I'm your host, Minister Robinson, and I am so excited. We actually made it to episode 5. So excited, and a big, huge thanks to the Mic Drop Monday family. Today we're talking about a very important subject. We're talking about trauma. More importantly, how to heal from trauma. Kind of segues into the next project, which is Fractured Bonds, Tales of Betrayal. But enough about that. The family, the Mic Drop family, is here to break it all down for you right about nowish. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Mic Drop Mondays, where we're not just breaking cycles, we're building legacies. I'm your host for this segment, Jennifer Allure, and today we're going to talk about something that hits all of us, whether we consciously realize it or not. And what is that we're talking about? Trauma. Not just, the big moments, not just the deep heartbreaks that changed our lives, but it's also the subtle patterns. It's the silent pain. It's the survival mask that we wear every single day in and day out. And, especially if you're a mom, a single mom, and especially in African American community, the segment is especially for you, because trauma doesn't just sit with us in our memories. It actually lives in our bodies and shows up in our parenting and shows up in different ways in our lives, like how we work and within our friendships and other relationships. It echoes through our children, and until we actually face it, we'll just keep repeating it. So let's talk about it. Trauma isn't just about what happened to you. It's what happened inside of you because of what happened to you. Trauma is not just the event, it's the imprint. It's like the way your body tenses up when somebody raises their voice. And it's the way you tend to overcompensate, overplay your part. You can be a people pleaser, doing things just to receive recognition or acceptance. You shut down emotionally, or you feel the need to be perfect all the time, which is impossible. So imagine that rat race, chasing perfectionism and never being able to attain it. Because it's like survival taught you that your safety depends on being liked. It depends on being needed for something. It depends on you being quiet and not using your voice, or just being useful to someone else. And this shows up, in motherhood. Like I said, in parenting and at the job site, this is how you show up to the world. And especially, during parenting time, we discipline our kids from a space of fear and not a space of guidance. We tend to kind of overprotect them because we weren't protected enough when we were their age. We shut down when they express anger because we were never allowed to do that. It's like a lot of us grew up in the generation of kids were to be seen and not heard. And if you expressed any dissatisfaction in, what was going on around an adult, you would be in trouble. So it's like we were never allowed to express ourselves in a healthy way. So it's hard, to allow our children to do that and to break that cycle. But we call all of these things strength, but really it's unprocessed survival. So if we can pause and think about this, how much of our core belief system, how much of our core values and what we believe about love, safety, and self-worth, how much of that was taught to you by someone who was hurting themselves? And a lot of us were carrying our mother's wounds, our grandmother's silence, and even our father's absence in some cases, in most cases, unfortunately. but it's like we're passing it down unintentionally. It's not because we're not doing it on purpose, because we're bad mothers or because we're bad people or bad members of the collective conscious, but it's because we never were given the tools to pause and say, hey, this stops with me. Like, this is it. This cycle is not going to continue on my watch. So now that we have those tools, we have to learn how to implement them into our daily lives, all while healing from our traumatic experience at the same time. And we say, I want my kids to grow up and be strong, but there is no such strength without emotional literacy. If we don't allow our children to express themselves and to deal with their emotions properly, they can't be strong, because no matter how much weight you can lift or how mean you appear to be or try to be, something's going to happen, or something can happen in your life that can send emotions your way and will throw you all off balance because you were never prepared to deal with that emotion or know what to do with it. And it can really, really take you out. And you think like you're just bearing it down, and not dealing with it. But when you bury it down, it actually plants a bad seed in your body that grows and disrupts your central nervous system. So it's really important. But you become a man or a person without expressing your emotions. You become a person who bottles everything up until it just explodes out. Either that, or you end up just getting so used to holding your emotions inside and not using your voice that you just lose your voice altogether, and you don't really know how to express yourself anymore. You stop doing it. And we also say that which I understand, but want our kids, weakness isn't in the crying? What if the weakness isn't in the tears? It's like God gave us tear ducts for a reason. We're supposed to cry to release stress. Stress hormones are released through our tears. And this is something biologically inside of our bodies that is something that our bodies needs to do biologically. And then I think that the weakness comes from being afraid to express something that's happening naturally in your body. And the weakness does not come from doing what happens naturally in your body. So I think that's pretty backwards. But our boys are hurting because of this concept. And if we don't help them learn how to feel safely, how to express their emotions, the world will teach them to numb it down instead. Numb it down, dumb it down, or explode. It seems that it's normal for your feelings to explode, for you to do something crazy. That's perceived as normal in society when it's not. So let's shift into some real practical ways that we cope, and how to know if those coping strategies are actually helping us or are they actually hurting us. So this is what unhealthy coping looks like. Avoidance, avoiding things that we know we need to do. Busyness, being extra busy for no reason because you don't want to sit still and deal with your thoughts and emotions. Hustling all the time just to be on the grind, but you're not really accomplishing anything. Having a poor diet, overeating or undereating, or just eating like really bad things, comfort foods to the 100th degree terrible, lashing out at our kids for things that they do. That's normal kid stuff, but we're coming from our own source of pain, so we end up lashing out at them. And we hold everything in until we feel like we're about to bust. And so here's the thing about coping. Coping is definitely not healing. Coping is a survival mode thing. Coping mechanisms are used for people who just are trying to survive. And we want to do more than try to survive and just cope with the things that we're dealing with. We want to heal the things that we're dealing with so we don't have to cope with them to survive. So we don't have to find these different coping mechanisms to let the problem persist, but still allow us to function day to day. We want to get rid of what is causing us the need to cope. So how do we even start to heal? How do we start that? You start by noticing your triggers, not judging them, but just noticing them. We all need to be an observer of ourselves. We need to start looking at our mannerisms, our personality traits, and our different triggers, the things that make us upset, the things that cause us grief, the things that make us sad. Getting control of these things will help us to better control our emotions because we'll know the trigger, we'll be used to it because we've done the work to notice it. So if we see a trigger coming or it happens, we already know that there's an emotion that's tied to that trigger. And then with practice, we will know how to deal with that emotion so it doesn't get us all out of whack. But that's the beginning of what is called shadow work. It's just dealing with aspects of ourselves that aren't really comfortable or likable to us, but even though nobody is perfect and we all have issues that we're working on, we all are deserving of love and of safety, no matter what, and of good health. That's what we all deserve in life. So with that, when you get a trigger, just start noticing how your body reacts. Notice when you feel that tightness in your chest and when you feel the need to control everything. Like even though you have delegated tasks to really competent people that will have no problem completing the task at hand, you still feel that you need to control. You need to have that control over the situation just so you know what's going on every step of the way, just so that you feel more comfortable because you're in control. And that's really not healthy for you. It's not saying anything about the person that you gave the task to. It's saying more about you not being able to get over your control issue. And sometimes our kids, when they start acting crazy, they use that tone with us that we don't like. That's a trigger, that tone, and it sends us into defense mode. And when we go into defense mode, it's like we're not parenting, in that situation. We're just mad. But once we notice these triggers, I think it's good to just pause and take deep breaths and remind yourself that's the old paradigm. This is not now. What I like to do, or what I tell people to do, is the box breath. What the box breath is 4 counts in when you're breathing. A count of 4 in, you hold it for a count of 4, and then you release it for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. And you're going to do that, repeat that over for about maybe 2 minutes or however much time you have. But they call that the box breath because it's 4 count in, hold for 4 count out, hold for 4, and repeat. And that will help you reset your central nervous system, which is what gets all out of whack when we go through these traumatic experiences. When we spend a lot of our life in survival mode, in fight or flight mode, our central nervous system actually gets all jacked up. We're living in fight or flight all the time, and our body actually forgets how to relax. And in a lot of cases, dealing with anxiety, our body doesn't know the difference between an overdue bill or, a bear chasing us. That's what's going on inside of our bodies, dealing with this anxiety and this fight or flight and this trauma mode. So doing these meditations and intentional practices will help reset your central nervous system, which is connected to your brain, which will then allow your brain to work properly so you can plan for the future and pull yourself out of survival mode. So in addition to, breathing and taking a pause, we have to practice self-forgiveness, because it's like trauma will make you hate the younger version of yourself who is just there, just trying to survive, just trying to make it. And you survived, so now you get to rebuild with everything that you learned. So here's what healing looks like in real life. It looks like setting boundaries without guilt, and that's a big one. Everything has boundaries in this world. In the land, our state has boundaries, our country has boundaries, the water has boundaries. I mean, God put natural boundaries between the shore and the water. So I don't know why we think that we shouldn't have boundaries to protect our resources that are inside of our body, such as our energy, our psyche, and our central nervous system. We need to set up the boundaries just like land. He said his reasoning was to keep our resources in our country. But We need to use that same mindset when dealing with our bodies and setting boundaries. We only have so many resources inside of us. We only have so much trauma that we can allow ourselves to take. And there's only so much self-betrayal we can do to ourselves before we are completely depleted of our own personal resources. So setting boundaries and not being guilty about it, because boundaries is what keeps the world running, is definitely going to help you. It also looks like saying, I'm sorry to your kid if you mess up. There's nothing wrong with that. They will respect you more for that. They won't lose respect or think you're weak. That's the beginning of starting a healthy communication style in your home. And journaling what you feel instead of just reacting to everything. And that comes with practice too, because those emotions come fast and strong, and it's hard not to just react in the moment. So taking the time to sit down and journal or meditate or scream by yourself, whatever you need to do, instead of just reacting to that emotion, then you're going to learn your body more. You're going to learn how your body works. It's like a muscle. You're going to say, oh, this happened. I know I'm about to start crashing out. So let me catch it first. So also speaking positive affirmations over yourself, even when your mind tells you otherwise. Now, none of these things are easy, but what you're doing is hard work. It seems like it'll be a cakewalk, but you're actually changing your own legacy for you and your family. And think about all the generations of trauma that have happened, all the thousands of years of generations of traumatic experience that lives in our DNA. And you're trying to change that. Little old you is trying to change that. And you think that it's gonna be easy. Like, no, it's not. The work is hard, but it's worth it. And it'll be the best thing you ever did for yourself and everyone around you. So speaking those positive affirmations over yourself, even if you don't believe it, repeating them over and over is gonna make your body believe it, whether you do or not. It's also important to create a peaceful home, not just a clean home, but a peaceful home. And choose good therapy, coaching, mentorships, or prayer and meditation, whatever you need to do to feel seen and to feel heard, and supported, because nobody is here as an island. We can be, but especially if you're healing, you need a support system. You don't have to heal alone. That's actually a trauma response too, thinking that you have to do everything by yourself all the time, especially as a single mother, when you quite literally do have to do things on your own for the majority of the time. You know, when it comes to physical things like paying the bills, taking care of the kids, when it comes to taking care of ourselves, we need support. We need a support system. It's like, you can do it by yourself. I know you're strong and I know you can handle anything, but that's not the goal here. The goal is for you to be healed. Strong is good, but if you're not healed, what are you going to use that strength for? So we're not here to raise our kids and to be people and operate from a place of pain anymore. We're here to operate from a place of complete power, of complete understanding, of wholeness, of being healed. And when you heal, everyone around you heals, especially your children. The past generations heal. Your DNA heals. Your central nervous system heals. The people around you can feel your energy, and your energy will heal them as well. So listen, your trauma is not your fault at all. I mean, hey, it might be, I don't know, your life, but it's not your fault. But your healing is your responsibility. No matter what happened to you, no matter who did it to you, no matter the circumstances around it, it is your responsibility to heal yourself. And that's the worst part about it. It's like, I was given all this trauma and all these things were done to me. And no, that's not my fault or my responsibility, but it's my job to heal myself. Because if I don't, then I'm wasting so much of what's inside of me and all the potential that could be if I had fertile soil inside of me for seeds to grow. But with that being said, perfection is not the goal. We don't owe anybody perfection at all because it doesn't exist, like we said earlier. But you do owe the world and yourself a healed version of you. And okay, so this week I want to challenge you guys. Nothing too crazy, but I want you to write a letter to your younger self. Think about times that were traumatic experiences for you, something that happened in your childhood that you remember. Maybe you stuffed those feelings down. And this is hard work, but it's necessary. So if it's safe, and if you don't feel safe doing this, always get help from somebody, a therapist or a loved one that you trust. But go back and write a letter to your younger self and tell that person, or tell your younger self, what you needed to hear at that time. And it can really not only improve, how you feel about that memory of what happened, but it actually helps you in your current space right now. So just write that letter. It's not going to be easy, but tell yourself what you needed to hear at that time when you were a kid, and it's going to help you in your present time. And it's also helpful to speak a new affirmation over your home every morning, but just before you leave the house, put a blessing over your home or speak a positive affirmation. So taking just one action that's rooted in healing and not hurt is going to begin to shift the tides a little bit on how you're living. And if you want any more support, I've got tools, I have a community, and I've got resources waiting for you inside of the Raising Kings movement. And you can find us at raisingkings_ on Instagram, or you can visit raisingkings.live. And what we do is, we noticed that I think the stat is about 64 to 67% of African American people in America come from single parent homes led by a mother. And we noticed that there's a disconnect, especially between the mother and the son, because when you get down into the biology of it, we process things differently. We process our emotions differently. We speak differently. And what I see with a lot of moms is that you get your son shutting down and then you're frustrated because you don't understand how to communicate with him. So we're here to bridge the gap in the lack of a father figure in the home and the mother realizing that she's raising a man. So a lot of moms, they know they have sons, but what they don't realize is that they're raising a man, and that's going to be somebody's husband one day. It's going to be somebody's father one day. You're raising him into be a grown man. And so when you start to look at it like that, then you can start to implement those things that you would want to see in a man you would want into your son. And we also help with male mentorship, because we believe that it's extremely important. If there's not a male in the home and you have a son, that he needs a male mentor just to help guide him, through the things that he's going to go through. Because boys are sometimes way more emotional than girls are. It's just that we process things differently. And society has taught our boys to, be quiet and not express their emotions. So it's a lot harder for them. Go ahead and visit us over there at raisingkings_ on IG, where there's a lot of resources. I got a whole link tree full of free stuff for you to download and help single moms raise your sons. Because we're not just surviving, y'all, we're thriving over here. We're not just raising boys, we're raising kings. And, that starts with you. All this stuff starts with you. So I love you guys. I see you guys. I appreciate all the panel members on Mic Drop Mondays.
Hello. It is Allure Unique here for Mic Drop Monday, y'all. And today's topic is trauma. And what I'm coming to tell you today is that trauma is not the end. It's the testimony in the making. Trauma is not the end. It is the testimony in the making. Understand these facts. So peace and power to everybody tuned in. Again, I am Allure Unique, and I represent real struggle, strength, motivation. And I'm here to be real, raw, and redemptive. And we talking about trauma today, y'all. We are talking about trauma today, and understand that trauma, we all got it in some form. We all got it in some form. This is also a fact. But today, we're not just talking pain, we're talking purpose. This is Real Struggle Show. So let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it, and let's break down trauma. Let's first break down trauma. Understand that trauma doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like silence. That's right. Sometimes it don't look like tears. Sometimes it just looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like overachievement, lashing out, or isolation. That's right. Sometimes it looks like overachievement, or lashing out, short-tempered, or isolation, secluding yourself from the world because of things that you've been through in your past, because you are traumatized, because you have not overcome as a trooper on yet in this battlefield of life. But today I'm telling you, you will break free. You can break free if you want to. It's your choice. Today we're replacing healing with hustle. We are replacing healing with hustle. And what hustle stands for is hunt until struggle turns living ecstasy. Hunt until struggle turns living into ecstasy, people. And what is ecstasy? A state of wonderment and mental clarity. It's bound to help you get your mind right when you get this mental clarity. It is bound to help you get your mind right. But again, you have to want it. So again, we're replacing healing with hustle. You got to be willing to hustle. You got to be willing to give it all you got. You better, by any means necessary, you want to overcome this trauma. And understand that I've seen trauma up close, being young and reckless. Not restless, reckless. Being damn near homeless, excuse my language, but I have to be real and raw. Being dang near homeless, misjudged, surviving abuse, raising children while broken, and still showing up like everything was fine. I was still showing up like everything was fine. But I had to stop surviving and I had to start surrendering. I had to stop coping through control and start healing through Christ. I had to drop my anchor and dock with the Lord to understand that the struggle was truly my strength. I had to get G'd up with Him. And this is what I'm telling you that you're going to have to do as well. You're going to have to give it all to Him. Come is what He said. All those who are heavy laden, come. His yoke is easy and His burden is light. Release those burdens. Release that trauma. Break free so that you can be a lightweight. So that you can have that joy from within that the world can't give and the world can't take it away. Give it to Him so that you can have that peace that surpasses all understanding. Peace, pursuing ease and comfort every day. So again, we want to surrender at this point in time. And the Lord said, come as you are. And He's not talking about your outside appearance. He don't care about your habits. He don't care even about your trauma. But understand that He can help you to overcome. He can help you to have a testimony of overcoming, of redemption, if you want to be redeemed. So now it's time for the turnaround. It is time for the turnaround. And let me tell you, trauma is not your final destination. It's the tunnel that leads to transformation if you let the Lord in it with you. Understand that when I stopped running from my wounds and started walking through them with God, that's when I found my strength. That's because I dropped that anchor and dog. That's because I came to Him wholeheartedly, letting Him know, Lord, you can use me in a way that you see fit. And yes, He did take away all the bad habits. He did take away the trauma and the drama, unnecessary drama. My life was like a Lifetime movie. Now I'm bold and beautiful. I went from young and reckless to bold and beautiful. My coping turned into communion. I stopped hiding behind I'm good and started praying bold prayers. Like, God, I'm hurt. Heal me. Show me what to do with this pain. And he did. He turned my trauma into testimony. And now I pour into others from the overflow of my healing. And I'm telling you to allow him to let your trauma turn into a testimony. I'm telling you right now, but you can be able to pour into others from the overflow of your healing. If you just drop that anchor and dock with the Lord. And some practical steps that you can take for coping is first talk it out with God first. Don't call nobody else. Call him. Call Jesus. Understand that he already knows everything about you. He knew you were before you were formed in your mother's womb. He knows who you are. He knows the mistakes that you were made. He knows the thoughts that you think. This is why you got to be mindful. Everything don't have to be spoken, but understand that your words do speak life or death. What are you speaking into yourself? What are you telling yourself today? Do you believe in who you are because you are somebody despite the trauma that you've experienced? You are a child of God. And even if you're not a religious party, and even if you don't go to church on a regular basis, understand that you still can call out to him. Again, this is something that you must want. You must need it. And you don't want to wait until all else fails. You want to come forth now. You want to drop that anchor now. You want to dock an anchor now. You want to get G'd up now. You want to understand that the struggle is truly yourself. So understand that first thing first, have more gratitude than attitude and talk it out with God first. He already knows, but he wants the relationship. And also you can write it out because journaling is spiritual surgery. That's right. You can write it out as well because journaling is spiritual surgery. And find a safe space, not just a person, but a purpose. Your purpose gives your pain a place to live without poisoning you. So find a safe space. Step into your purpose. Move. Push for purpose on purpose so that you can live a purposeful life moving forward. Past that trauma. And worship in the weeping. That's where power gets reborn. Worship in the weeping. Praise the Lord with all your heart and soul. Give thanks unto him despite what you've gone through. Y'all, I always say you can cry and still carry calling. You can cry and still carry calling. Understand this. You're not disqualified by your damage. You're not disqualified by your damage. You're marked by it. And scars are just healed up survival stories. That's right. Those scars are your survival stories. So don't let trauma define you. Let it refine you. Let it refine you, people. Don't let it define you. Don't just lie dormant. Keep climbing. Keep stepping out and rise and soar. Mount up with wings just like that eagle. And understand that you were made to conquer. You were made to step out. You were made to be authentically you despite what you've been through. You are loved. You are not alone. So y'all, if this touched you right now, tap in with me. Like I said before, I am Allure Unique. I represent real struggle strength. You can check out some of my motivational videos or even listen to my podcast, which is for listening purposes only, at RSS Cake Talk Motivation. You can also check out some of my e-learning courses on thegreatdiscovery.com/allure. And I do have some free short ones, and the other ones are a little bit more intermediate, but they are very inexpensive. No more than $20 for a six-step strategy course that I just came out with called The Game of Life with God's Plan. Y'all check it out. You can also check out some of my motivational music underneath Allure Unique on all music streaming platforms. And by all means, check out my testimonial so that you can see what all trauma I went through. So that you can see how the Lord brought me out, even when I came to him as a mess. As a mess, still running the streets, still doing what I wanted to do. And he redeemed me. He recycled, reduced, and reused me as many times as I asked him to, and he can do the same for you. So check out RSS Part 1 and Part 2, Real Struggle Strength Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1, Headed to the Streets Through Trials and Tribulation. Part 2, From Trenches to Trendsetter to Dark and Anchored with the Lord. My testimonial, short tales of my real life on all reading platforms, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ingram Spark. Real Struggle Strength Part 1 and Part 2. And of course, y'all can check out some of my awesome merch and attire, products and attire, at realstrugglestrength.com. You can also contact me directly at allureuniquestyles.com, styles with a Z at the end. And you can also check out allureunique.com, allureuniquestyles.com, if you want to see more of the things that I've been doing and what I'm coming to do, how I'm coming to make that mark of the higher calling. How the ramparts are rising, and I'm coming to save some soul. So again, I am Allure Unique, founder of Real Struggle Strength, where we turn trials into testimonies and trenches into trendsetting. Y'all, again, check out my books, e-learning courses, check out my motivation, check out my products and attire. I love y'all and understand that the struggle is truly your strength. So drop your anchor and dock with the Lord. Come forth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mic Drop Monday. And I'm Latif. And this week, we're talking about how to cope with trauma. And I'm going to clarify by saying how I cope with trauma, which could possibly help someone else. It all depends. What's traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you. What's a traumatic experience that you've been through, I may not have been through and may have no idea. So with that being said, I want to say that I think that we cope with trauma on many different levels in many different ways. It all depends. So for me, how I cope with trauma is remembering who I am, remembering what I'm grateful for. Because if that trauma didn't affect other areas in my life, then I constantly remind myself that you're okay. You're going to get through this. You're going to get through this. After a certain age, we realize that life will throw so much at us sometimes, and it's all at once. And that itself could be a traumatic experience. Having a past due bill and also a vehicle that's broken down can be a traumatic experience for some of us. So how do we cope with that trauma? Gratitude. I feel like that's the best way to cope with trauma. Now, fortunately, I haven't dealt with the huge traumatic experiences in life. So I can't say that gratitude would necessarily help that, but I can only imagine, and I could literally at this moment only imagine that it could probably help me just a little bit. So why does gratitude help with trauma? Because it's kind of rewiring the thought process in your brain that instead of falling into a depression or moping around or crying off and on all day, at those moments where we feel that peaking up on us, we can just stop and be grateful. Sometimes it's just as small as being grateful for the moment, being grateful for the breath, being grateful for the fact that you're actually still here experiencing life, even though it may not be at the best level at that time. I mean, with life, trauma is a part of it. And it's, even now as a full-grown adult, it's kind of scary because we don't know what trauma we could be facing. We don't know. So I would say another way to cope with trauma is, it's almost like that with in medicine when they say prevention is the best cure. We can't stop trauma from happening, but what we can do, if it hasn't happened to us yet, which I'm sure it probably has if you're maybe even over the age of 1. I mean, children have traumatic experiences. We all go through them. But what we could do is, before we even find ourselves having to cope, is align ourselves with gratitude right away. And I don't want to sound like, it's a fad, because I know, like, in this day and time right now, spirituality is really growing, positivity is growing, and we're hearing the same things all of the time. It's almost like there's this one book around that several people have read and they're just reciting, when really I think that, we're just evolving. So it must be something to it why several people feel that gratitude is the way. I've actually heard that even when I was younger, gratitude is the attitude. But it's just coming back like now, like it's a big thing now, and I think that's a beautiful thing, because it shows that we are evolving. It shows that we are, as people, trying to take things to another level. We're trying to learn more about life and ourselves and this whole experience. When I think about trauma, because I'm a mother, I think of my children, and any experiences that I've been through them. And I've had a few. I've had a few, medical, other situations, all types. And when I think back on how I dealt with that trauma, it was those moments of, okay, let me just breathe it out. I'm here. I'm experiencing it. It could have been different. It could have been totally different. And that did help shift things just a little bit. When it comes to trauma with relationships, and not just romantic, I'm talking family, friends, neighbors, whatever, how I deal with it is I stay grounded. I know who I am, meaning I take accountability. I think that's another way to deal with trauma, because sometimes some of these traumatic experiences that we have, and to be quite honest, we brought them on ourselves. We have brought them on ourselves from our choices, and it's a part of it. It's a lesson and a blessing also, but we brought it on ourselves. So how do I deal with that type of trauma? How could you possibly deal with that type of trauma? Take accountability. Take accountability and be grateful that it didn't turn out worse than what it could have been. The more I think about it, I want to say that my final answer when it comes to dealing with trauma is really accountability and gratitude. Some of these traumatic experiences, if it's involving death, that's a tough one. I think that it shouldn't come from me, because I haven't experienced it on that level. I've lost close people, but I haven't experienced it on the level where I just feel like I'm immobilized. I see it with social media. Of course, you see it, and my heart aches. And I wonder, how do they, how are they doing it? And I can only think of one word. I really can only think of one word: gratitude. You have to be grateful that, you're here. If you're a parent, my children are here, my other children. God forbid, if it was a child that you lost, heart goes out to you. You have to, I've heard parents say, you have to keep going for the other children. So I would say that gratitude plays a huge part in that. You're grateful that, you still have your other children, or whatever family member you lost. You still have, your other siblings. You may still have your parents. You still have you, because it means that, even though you may feel like, oh my God, why am I experiencing this? I don't want to be here anymore. But you're here for a reason. Creator has you here for a reason. So how do we cope with trauma? Gratitude. If it's trauma that you brought on yourself from your own choices, then I would say accountability. If it's from a backstabbing friend, that's when I say it's not really your trauma. If you've been backstabbed by someone, or it's like relationship trauma, and that, you gave your all in all, maybe you just come across a bad seed, you stay grounded and you remember who you are and you know who you are. And then you just tell yourself, wait, this isn't a traumatic experience for me. It may be a traumatic experience for them in the future when they realize exactly what they lost. The soul, I'm not even talking about the shell, the soul, the spirit that I carry, the person that I am. So if it's trauma, we got it's levels to this. It's levels to everything. It's levels to trauma. So I'm going to say the relationship trauma, I would say that's at the bottom. Especially if you know that, we all want to be right in situations, but let's just say, hypothetically, you know that you're right. You're a woman that, like I said, got with the bad seed. You're dealing with domestic violence. You're dealing with mental trauma. And yes, that takes a toll on you. It does. But don't question yourself. Don't question who you are. What you do is you flip that trauma right back. You stand on your 2 feet. You do what you got to do. You look in the mirror and you just say, you know what? That's their trauma, not mine. Some traumatic experiences is like that. You got to let it go. Like, no, you're not going to pass your trauma on to me. You get what I'm saying? You're not, this is a traumatic experience for you because I'm going to continue to move forward. Okay? I hope that helped someone. I really hope that helps someone. There's levels to the trauma. So I'm going to say one of 3 things. Either you're going through a traumatic experience, but it's not yours. Hand it right on back over to the corporate. Hand it right on back over and let them deal with that trauma. Because you know who you are. Okay? The trauma that we bring on ourselves, take accountability. Take accountability. It feels damn good to take accountability. Because you get to view everything from your lens. You're looking at yourself, self-reflection. And the third, gratitude, because it's something that happened beyond your control. But you're still here and you're here for a reason. You may not know that reason at the time. You may not know it right now. But it's something that you're here for. And yes, you experienced that trauma. And my heart goes out to you if that's your situation. Hang in there. Hang in there. And just be grateful that you're still having an experience. It may not have been the experience that you thought you would have or how you envisioned it or imagined it, but you're still a part of the experience. Okay? I know trauma is a tough one. And in the day and time we live in right now, it can be traumatic just to wake up. But gratitude, accountability, and like I said, those other ones that it just came into your life, those bad seeds, hand that trauma right back to them. Right back to them. Not yours. It's not yours to deal with. Okay? I'm Latif, owner of Anaj Health and Beauty, the all-natural health and beauty brand, where we encourage you to stay inside out beautiful. Okay? Thank you for tuning in to another Mic Drop Monday. And we will see you next time. Stay grateful, stay grounded, stay authentic, and start taking accountability for some things. All right, until next time.
Talk trauma. How do we cope? How do we deal with life when it's hitting us in the face? How do we deal with life when it feels like it's pulling us back? We're on the treadmill and we can't get anywhere. People are throwing things at us. We're falling. We're trying to get up. We can't pick up our stuff and walk and carry everybody and everything. And it's just, how do we deal with this? Everybody deals with it differently. Everybody is wired a different way based on your upbringing and based on the people who raised you. How did they deal with their emotions? How did they deal with hurt? How did they deal with anger? How did they deal with happiness? These things molded you very, very early on in life. So it's hard to say how you should deal with it, but I can tell you how people do deal with it from what I've observed, which is the 1 or 2 ways. You have the person that funnels all that trauma and hurt into something positive. This is the way you ideally want to do it. This is how you get your fire. This is how you get yourself motivated. You take that anger, instead of letting it out as anger and letting it out as frustration, you funnel all that energy into something positive, whether it's at work, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in your body, your eating habits, your exercising. Some people become gym fanatics. Some people just become health crazy because something had hurt them so bad, and funneling all that energy into working out, it's doing something for them. It's working for them. It's helping them see themselves in a different light. It's showing them how strong they are. And now they can't stop. Now they're addicted to pushing themselves in the gym because it took that trauma for them to even realize they were capable of that. Some people are getting crazy random promotions at work, getting bonuses, top sales, right? All this because they started hitting it so hard because something hurt them, something pissed them off, or something physically hurt them. Trauma was caused, and now they're funneling it at work, and money's pouring in. The recognition is pouring in. Like, this guy's on fire, this girl's on fire, but he's angry, he's sad, he's hurt, he's all these things, and he has flipped that into his everyday life and his work environment. It's just skyrocketing him. This is where you see highly motivated people. This is where you see people who are just, they just look like they're just going for it, and you're just like, why? Their motor is crazy. My motor's not like that. You have not been hurt like them. You don't have a reason that they have. See, when I say why, every day you wake up for a reason. There's no day you wake up that should be an accident. Stop waking up like an accident and start living on purpose. Why you get up and do everything you do in a day you get up should make you cry. You really sat there and thought about what you do on a day-to-day basis and why you do it. If you don't get emotional and want to tear up, it's probably not strong enough, and you're not motivated enough, and that's why you're not taking your life to the next level. And that's also why you might not be able to cope with trauma, because you're not pushing yourself to achieve anything greater to replace the thought of the trauma. If the trauma just sits there and is at the forefront, you never show yourself or prove to yourself that you've grown as a person and you've accomplished things, you've set a goal and you've reached it. You have nothing to replace the idea of a trauma with. So you're identifying yourself with the trauma that you can replace, and identify yourself with some successful things. Make some goals. Make sure you complete them. They don't have to be hard. They don't have to be monetary. These are just promises to yourself to boost your self-esteem, help you look at the trauma different, help you look at whatever occurred differently so you can get past it. Funnel this energy into whatever it is you would like to be or do. Watch how everything skyrockets. That's one way people do it. The other way is based on their wiring and upbringing and how they react to things. They funnel it all to a negative place and try to escape. They try to leave Earth. They don't want to be here, but they don't want to commit suicide. This is drug. This is how people get addicted to drugs. The drugs allow them to get into a half-awake phase, zombie mode. I don't need to think. I don't need to care, because if I think, I'm going to start thinking about what happened to me, and it's going to cause me more pain. So if I get numb to my mind and my body, I could just sit there like a potato, then maybe I won't have to think about the trauma. But every time I do it, I'm still thinking about the trauma. It's not working, but I keep doing it. And now I'm just in this downward cycle, chasing something that's not going to happen, because you have to save yourself. So some people start off one way or the other, and then later in life switch. They switch. You can have some negative, comes from a negative family, a negative way of reacting to emotions, and then as an adult something happens and they just snap out of it, and they funnel all that new energy into something positive, and they really see how they used to be and change their whole perspective. Then you can have someone who's been nice, who's always dealt with things right, so they thought, the level-headed person that always looks like they were able to cope easily, and then they get fed up and sick of somebody hurting them in life, and they flip and just go negative and look back and say they were too nice, or they were this, or they were that. So perspective is what really determines what a person will do. We'll say this: majority of people stay on the same path. Majority of people don't switch up that drastically. What they might do is switch up how soon or how long it takes them to come to their senses, but they're usually going the same direction. So when you have trauma, you have to keep moving. You have to replace it. You have to replace it. That's why you need a new destination, a new goal, a new destination, a new goal. Keep the motor running. Eventually, that thing is so far in the past, you forgot. Eventually, you have replaced it with so much. When you do think about it, it doesn't get you as worked up. It motivates you now. You're like, dang, I remember, I thought that was it for me. I thought when that happened to me, that was it. Now look at me. So now it lets the next time something happens to you, you can like not even give it as much attention because you saw how you got over the last one. So the way we should deal with trauma is to funnel all that energy into what we're already working on. The way people do it is up to how they were raised. Perspective is everything, but give people a break and show some humility. Until next time, let's go.
Hey guys, glad that you're still here. Was that not an amazing Mic Drop Monday? Learned so much, even myself, I learned so much about trauma and healing from trauma. I have to give a big shout out, a big thanks to Allure, to Jennifer, to Latif, to Chris for breaking this down. I got workshops to do, I got a lot of stuff to do, but the important thing is that you prepare yourselves for the next project. It's going to be a great project, and it's going to deal a lot with healing. It's going to deal a lot with trauma. That project being Fractured Bonds, Tales of Betrayal. I think it's one of the more important projects that we're doing right here on Church of Real Talk TV. Hey, you already know, next week we'll be back with more motivation and inspiration, and at the very least, help someone else heal, help someone else get through something. That's what we do right here at Mic Drop Mondays. With that being said, Minister Robinson, the reason why I think we all do this, love you guys.
What? Come on. Gotcha. Uh-huh. What? Come on. Gotcha.